Hello and welcome to Courage to Overcome. On this podcast, I will be talking about emotionally destructive people and relationships from a Christian biblical perspective with a bit of psychology. I also upload inspirational and motivational content. So if you're interested in hearing more, please subscribe or follow my podcast. So I just want to continue this episode about managing and setting boundaries with controlling people. In the last episode, I talked about what personal boundaries are and how to communicate our boundaries to other people, how some people will try to violate boundaries set. In this episode, I want to talk about how to enforce personal boundaries. Now, it's very important for you to develop an action plan if your boundaries are violated. What are you going to do if the person in your life refuses to respect your boundaries? Now what? Now, obviously, in every relationship, there are exceptions and missteps, but when your boundaries are regularly being disrespected or violated, what are you going to do? You see, consequences are the result of what happens when your spouse or partner refuses to honor your words, to honor your no or stop. Please don't do that. And so they need to experience some discomfort for their disrespect and irresponsibility. Consequences are not meant to punish, but they're meant to wake your spouse or partner up to truth, to reality, and to protect yourself, of course. In other words, you're going to say to them without words now, you can't act this way with no negative effects. Otherwise, why would they stop acting that way? Consequences are not about fixing or controlling your spouse or partner. Now, the book of Galatians in the Bible has some interesting verses about boundaries and consequences. For example, it says that we're to bear one another's burden, but we're to each carry our own load. We're to have responsibility for ourselves. And it also says that whatsoever a man sows, or a woman, they shall reap. And that's a verse about consequences. And so when someone sows discord, abuse, deceit, indifference, disrespect in a relationship, you don't reap the blessings of a good relationship, do you? And if you did, then they'd never learn that if they sowed weeds in their garden, to not expect roses. Therefore, what are appropriate consequences for you? How are you going to let the person in your life know that something is going to happen next if they continue to refuse to respect your boundaries? Well, think about it. Pray about it. Don't react in anger. What is the consequence that will help, not enable, your spouse's or partner's behavior to continue as well as protect you from being harmed? Keep it based in reality. It has to do with what's happening. For example, a spouse who may be chronically sloppy may not have the same consequence as one who's chronically deceitful or unfaithful. Make the consequence tough enough that they do inflict some pain in order to wake them up to reality. If you choose to act like this is what's going to happen. Make sure you are able to implement the consequence. Nothing is more ineffective than saying you're going to do something and then not do it. You lose your credibility and your voice then. Make sure in the way you state it, you're not trying to control your spouse or partner. Don't say you have to or you can't. Remember, I can't control you, I can only control me. And so consequences are reactions to their choices. Let them have the freedom. Let them make their choice to do whatever they're going to do and not call when he's going to be late. Or whatever he's going to do. But then what are your consequences? When you are passive here and you do not speak up or have consequences, this is where more of the crazy making part of the relationship starts to get going. They've disrespected your boundaries. Maybe you've tried to speak up and they start to make you feel selfish or guilty for having boundaries. Or they might even say they didn't hear you. Or they'll say, okay, I'll do it. Then they don't do it. Or they say you're being too rigid or unchristian. Or you start to doubt yourself like, maybe I shouldn't be setting these boundaries. Maybe I should just be loving and giving and submissive and not have any consequences. And you start to back down to keep the peace, or because your loved one punishes you for having your own needs and feelings that impose on their needs and feelings. and you're afraid of more retaliation if you put consequences in place. But what happens then is you become fantasy wife. In his mind, you're the one who's supposed to give. You're the one who's supposed to back down. You're the one who's always supposed to have no feelings of your own. You exist to serve him, unhealthy and destructive. And if you're a mom raising children at home, please set boundaries and do not allow your children to disrespect you. They need to start to see you as a person, not just as a mom, to meet their needs for food, money, homework, help, car ride, shopping trips, birthday parties, Christmas gifts. You're not just a mom, you are a person, a woman who has your own needs, your own feelings, your own dreams, your own desires. And the sooner your children start to see that, while being a good mom, the better your adult relationship with them will be. Lastly, be prepared to follow through with your consequences. The consequences are usually in a form of a loss of privilege. In an adult relationship, it's usually the privilege of your company or your help or your time or your money. And so you could say something like this: if you won't stop speaking to me this way, remember, since I can't control you, I can only control me, I'm going to leave the room. So, for example, if you won't stop speaking to me this way, I'm going to leave the room. I'm going to leave the conversation, the bedroom, the house, the car. And sometimes, in some cases, you may have to leave the marriage. If you don't call me and tell me you're going to be late, I won't hold dinner for you anymore, and you're on your own to figure out what you want to eat. If you hit me again, I'm going to call the police or tell the pastor. I'm no longer keeping this a secret. The longer you tolerate what is intolerable or accommodate a person's disregard for you as a person, the more and more it will continue to happen. Also, I just want you to know you're not just doing these things for yourself. That may, for some of you, seem too self-centered. But you're speaking up and standing up for the welfare of your marriage and your relationship, your future family relationships, and everything healthy and good that will completely disintegrate if disrespect, abuse, and deceit become the dominating characteristics of your home. Then everyone loses, you, your children, and even the abusive person, because they remain blind to their problem and therefore have absolutely no hope of change. But don't misunderstand me. You can do all this right, and your spouse may still stay blind and unwilling to change. But if you stay passive and do nothing, it's only going to get worse. So setting boundaries and implementing appropriate consequences are a step for you in getting healthy. This is important for you in learning to grow and be all that God calls you to be. Even if it doesn't make a lick of difference to your husband or partner, you are going to change. Until next time, I'll meet with you in my next episode. Please like, share, and subscribe, and stay blessed.